AEW Full Gear 2025 actually ended with some controversy, which I'm all good with because it gives us something to talk about. We can figure out whether we liked it or whether we thought it was a pile of baloney. And I did think it was a very good pay-per-view overall. They're always too long for me. Talked about it before. There's no point me going on about this all the time. I've made my thoughts very, very clear. I think if you scrap 30 minutes or so, it would just make for a more, oh my gosh, I can't believe it show. But when you do sort of break it down match by match, I think the cool thing about this show is there were so many just great moments that made you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, and maybe even just a little bit made you go, you know what, I love professional wrestling. It is the best. Hello, my friends. I am Simon Miller, the bald idiot that talks about wrestling on here, the internet. And I do wrestling myself. Again, you can go check out my matches now. You can go to UPW YouTube. Actually, it's called BLW now, where I took on Rhino recently. And yes, spoiler, he gored me through a table. And talking about spoilers, please subscribe. Let's talk Full Gear. Now, I'm going to do it in reverse, but this is the big thing people want to talk about, so I'm going to break audience retention rules. Just leave the video playing, even once I'm done talking about Hangman Adam Page and Samoa Joe. Now, yes, on my prediction video I put up on Thursday, I do believe I uttered the words, nobody in their right mind thinks Samoa Joe is going to win. So, if you thought this, actually turns out I was not in my right mind. I loved it. I really, really did. Now, listen, I had the same reaction as many of you when he did win. I can't believe that. Why would we do that to Hangman Adam Page? But one, I think that's the reaction you're meant to have because Hangman is our guy, whereas Samoa Joe is meant to be the villain. But once you take a step back and put your nerd hat on, which is essentially what these conversations are, we sort of ignore kayfabe and we start talking about wrestling in, well, what we expect from it as a form of entertainment and a form of storytelling. Why can't you do this? That was the big question I kept asking myself, the irony, me asking myself why. But I actually think it's something that wrestling companies should do more. It's different when you just pull the trigger. I want to apologize to him now, but it's just the ultimate example of the modern day. When WWE did this with Jinder Mahal, it's like, what? And more power to that guy who would turn the opportunity down. But it didn't work. Samoa Joe for years has been a legitimate top guy, and every single time he's won a world title, ever since really he was in TNA, it was totally believable because he's Samoa Joe, and he's absolutely fantastic. So, him using the Ops and the secret agent of Hook, who apparently pretended to leave the Ops only to come back to the Ops, are the most traditional wrestling storyline ever. I mean, Hook goes heel, and he turns on Hangman Adam Page, allowing Samoa to get to win after everybody else had run down too. I just think it makes, we'll just focus on AEW here, but I think it would work for all of wrestling. It makes AEW more interesting because it will have a knock-on effect. Now, next time we have a match that we just think is so cut and dry, we'll be like, well, actually, they did do that with Hangman and Samoa Joe, so that makes sense. It's probably going to be Samoa Joe's last ever title run, so why not give it to him now when he's just doing such good work? It totally justifies having the second match. We all thought it was like, it's just a filler feud to the end of the year, or until MJF comes back. No, completely wrong. And it also kind of worked with the Swerve Strickland return, which I also thought was awesome. Like, he walks out, you think he's going to attack Hangman Adam Page, he doesn't, and instead he turns on Samoa Joe and the Ops. No, they all have a fight, and it left me, and I think this is the reason I loved it so much, it left my brain going, you know what, I absolutely want to tune into Dynamite. So yeah, when that all sort of infected my brain, I love the fact that we did this. I don't think it affects Hangman Adam Page. I think he's had such a good year. He's kind of protected anyway. Once again, it ensures that my intrigue in the product is pretty high. Again, I want to see what's going to happen on the television show. And what I've gone back to 1,000 times, there's two things that I've always said on loads of my videos, so it's time to back that up now. One, once again, I think all wrestling companies should take more risk, throw things against the wall if they don't work. You can always retroactively sort them out. But also, two, when WWE was bigger than it ever was at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin never had long title reigns. We continually took the belt off him because, for whatever reason, fans just preferred him on the chase. Now, I'm not going to say that's the same for Hangman Adam Page, but I do think that if the Samoa Joe feud is going to continue, it's way more interesting if Samoa Joe wins that championship and now Hangman, I don't know, goes crazy or whatever. And once again, throwing Swerve into that mix, maybe we're going to do three ways. Obviously, Swerve and Samoa Joe have history because that's when Swerve won his first world title too, so that's interesting. Swerve didn't go after Hangman, he went after Joe. I think it's great for Hook. Like, so many people have been saying that recently as well, oh man, Hook is in no man's land, what's going on, why is teaming with Eddie Kingston? Well, now all of a sudden we've leveled him up loads, so if this does work for him, maybe he can get to that point that a lot of people expect him to be at already. We've given him an opportunity, which is ironic because that's what I call Samoa Joe and the Ops. The Samoa Joe did lie to us. He told us when they were pretending that Hook wasn't out, we're a three-man group. We're never going to be more than three. So he used numbers against us. I know Elmo and Big Bird are going to be very annoyed with it. So I don't hate it at all. Like I said, it was somebody random and you didn't see it coming, then sure, you have to see what happens at the time, obviously. But Samoa Joe winning the championship, that is a top name, beating Hangman and Page in a cage where, again, Shibata was there, Eddie Kingston was there. All the other Powerhouse Hobbs ripped the cage door off, which is always fun. I like that a lot. Like, it's not like he just got beat 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. It was like, what the flub happened there? He even got muscle busted on a chair. So even after Hook had smashed him with the title, we ensured that we threw sort of more shenanigans into the mix. So I really did enjoy it. I had the initial reaction. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Well, that was a stupid thing to do. It wasn't a stupid thing to do. Now listen, we may get 2 weeks down the line and look back and go, we shouldn't have done it. But right now, it feels like there's a buzz in the air. It felt like an exciting end to the show, but it also reminded me that these belts can change hands. That is their sole purpose. It's to make people, and sometimes it's vice versa too, but also to, once again, there's no other way to put it, to create intrigue, to create interest. Like when we did the Satellite's main event review, whenever the last Cody versus Drew match was, I'm getting confused. We said it. Maybe we should have given it to Drew, even for a short reign, just to sort of inject some life back into the product. And that's what I think AEW has done. And the absolute net positive is now you can have any kind of a match that maybe gets to a round 2, and I'd be like, oh, now I'm not sure who's going to win this, because they've already told me once that I don't know, because if they're happy to do it here with arguably their most important belt, then you could do it with any other belts too. And let's not forget the match was great as well. I do think there was too much violence on this show. Where's my Kane? Where's my Kane and Coco? There's too much violence. I don't mean because I think there's too much violence in wrestling. There should be violence in wrestling. One of my favorite things between WWE and AEW at the moment is that WWE keeps it Disney, for lack of a better word, and AEW, when they want to go absolutely nuts, they will. I need both of these entities in my life, depending on the mood I'm in. But I just mean it more from a less is more point of view, which is the worst sentence I've ever said. But you had the John Moxley match that went right into the Carl Fletcher match, which was like no holds barred and they do Q. And then you got to the finish here, and it was a cage match. So it was just blood, 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 blood. And listen, once again, blood in wrestling is important, especially because WWE more often than not is going to shy away from it. But when you have this much blood, I said there's on ups and downs as well, where again, we go through it beat by beat, so forgive me repeating myself. But when you have too much blood, you may as well not have blood, because you get used to it. That's what happens. If I start punching myself in the face, you're like, what's he doing? If I continue to do it for the rest of my videos, you'll just tell brand new people, he's just the guy that punches himself in the face. Maybe I should do that. Everyone needs a weird gimmick these days, apparently, to get over on YouTube. That's neither here nor there. But this was a very, 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 very bloody match. But it was very, very good as well. Like, it had my attention. I kind of feel like, and I imagine this would be Samoa Joe, but I don't know. They felt like, let's get to the absolute manic nature of this as soon as we can, because we're coming at the end of a 4-hour pay-per-view. We've got to give people something to keep them up, especially because, again, a lot of people did not think Samoa Joe was going to win, so there was that kind of malaise. That just proves how great they are. Like, I really like Hangman Adam Page. Now we're getting to the end of the year. I think he's had a tremendous year. I still think he's the top babyface in all of AEW, and I don't think him losing the championship in this fashion affects that. Samoa Joe was a GOAT anyway, and now he's just a triple-double GOAT. The fact that you're able to still win world championships, the argument isn't, I can't believe Samoa Joe won a championship. It's like, why did we take it off so soon off Hangman Adam Page? Everyone loves Samoa Joe. Even AEW haters don't really say a lot about Samoa Joe because they know Samoa Joe is one of the best. I just love the fact it created this much conversation, and you can dislike it. I'm not saying that. If you think Hangman Adam Page needed an elongated reign, more power to you. But I think it's more of a creative choice. I don't think this is oh my gosh, like what have we just done? This is absolutely hopeless. No, I think Tony Khan and whoever else sat there and thought, I think we can make a play for this, and they did it. And if MJF comes back soon as well, and you have all 4 of these people rotating, I think there's something to it, and I think it could be very, very exciting. So now that I have sort of really thought about it, big fan, great main event, and I've said this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. I'm just obsessed with Samoa Joe, which I shouldn't say that. That's like criminal activity. I should go to jail. I mean, his name's Samoa Joe, right? And no one even blinks about that. That would be like in my wrestling career calling myself English Simon. People be like, Simon, you're never being a champion. English Simon. But he just makes it work, right? He just makes it work because he's absolutely brilliant. And everything back in TNA opened many doors. Like him, Christopher Daniels, and AJ Styles absolutely are so influential on the product that we get today. So I actually loved it. And again, you can have these 2 different reactions once you allowed information to sink into your tum-tum. Gets a couple of thumbs. You should watch it. We'll talk about those other two matches as well because I have brought them up. So Moxley versus Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe versus Kyle O'Reilly. I'm so going to get this. I'm going to get this wrong, right? I'm going to say the wrong names, forgive me. But the two things I loved about it is building new stars. I understand Samoa Joe is not a new star, so I'm not saying that before people misconstrue what came out of my mouth. But no one believed Kyle O'Reilly would be in this position even a month ago. So the fact that John Moxley has gone out of his way to really elevate a few people this year, Hangman, obviously Darby Allin, and now Kyle O'Reilly, I think is great. Again, you don't have to be behind Kyle O'Reilly, but I'm happy for AEW to pick anyone. We've talked about that before as well. It only ever takes 3 weeks to a month. If you really light a fire under someone, the perception changes so fast because there is so much television that we get on our screens. But Moxley finally tapping out to him, not in a clean match, because the filthiest thing I'd ever seen. And having that shot of Marina Shafir and having that shot of Pac and the Death Rise being like, bro, you're meant to be leading us and you're a coward and tap out all the time. He absolutely will be leaving that group soon. I think it should be Marina Shafir that does the Seth Rollins chair shot to the back of Roman Reigns. And then Pat can take over, or Marina Shafir can take over, or Claudio could take over. I think that's irrelevant. You could even put somebody new in there. But I love the fact that that's what it's building to. Not only is it putting people over, and I really hope it's Kyle O'Reilly versus Ricochet for that national championship. Like, just put Kyle O'Reilly in title matches. It doesn't even matter if he wins so much, but he just needs to be in and around that picture to really use this. But it's also totally justifying getting John Moxley out of the Death Riders. So it's just a great wrestling match. I mean, it was disgusting. I don't need forks in wrestling. I'm happy to tell you that. Every time someone messages me on social media, as soon as it happens, I go, oh, Simon, there was another fork. It makes me do this with my head. Just think it's disgusting. But I respect the fact they have the choice to do it. But it's actually the story and the ring psychology I liked the most. Again, I just thought it told a great narrative. And Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher was, let's use the sign, you can't see it right now, new studio being built over here. It genuinely made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. And I actually think that AEW leaned in going, oh, he's going to win, because he had this big entrance, and it just felt so mean if he wasn't going to finally become the TNT champion. Once again, what, the chains? Was this the match with the chains? Was it the Moxley match? I can't remember. This is the problem, right? With tables, chairs, and thumbtacks and all other kinds of stuff. Great Froggy Bow 1-2. That really got me. And when Mark Briscoe kicked out of the Brainbuster, that was a good finisher kick out. I still think Order of Wrestling spams it too much, but I convinced myself that Mark Briscoe wasn't going to do it halfway through the match. That's how great they were. And then, gets the big razor's edge, where you want to call it, through a table. Hits the Dre Driller, which ties into the story too, gets the 1-2-3. It was just awesome. And even if you're not a post-press conference guy, you should go watch him talk about this win in that. Mark Briscoe just comes across like the biggest babyface of all time. I don't care when he loses it. He can lose it on Wednesday, Saturday, 6 months from now. Just getting that moment and really establishing him as, I think, as somewhat of a top guy, because I think he has that connection with the fans, which is really what you want from people that are in that position. It was a great match. Too much of the stipulations, maybe, but I'd be happy to argue with that with you. It doesn't even matter here, because it did heighten the volume in the room. People bought into it, and I guess if you're trying to protect Kyle Fletcher, for lack of a better word, which they are, because quite clearly they've earmarked him for superstardom, as they should do, this allows Kyle Fletcher to basically be like, I got murdered in that match, bro. Of course I lost my TNT title. And let's not forget, he did go yell at Okada, Don Callis, and Takeshita and entered himself into the C2. They all did. So the Continental Classic is coming. But I watch wrestling to feel good, and I watch wrestling to see my heroes win, in inverted commas. And that's what Mark Briscoe did here. So you can keep running the feud, should you so want. You can get that title back to Kyle, should you so want. You'll always have this on November the 22nd, 2025, when Mark Briscoe, who was a lifetime career tag team wrestler, then lost his brother, and again, he talks about Jay in that interview, which would just get you right in the heart, but now to almost reinvent himself, almost quit wrestling, but continue on because he felt Jay's present, and then to win the TNT title, which is the equivalent of the Intercontinental title, whatever you want to say. It's brilliant. It was wonderful. And it's the main reason I will watch wrestling for the rest of my days. That and goofy wrestling for life. I've just decided goofy wrestling is more important than serious wrestling, but not when you do stuff like this. It felt real, okay? And now I know the term real and fake when it comes to wrestling is a bit of a controversial one, but this didn't feel like some predetermined match. It felt like somebody that had been through it, had worked his ass off, lost and lost and lost, finally gets the big one. It's tremendous. It really was. As was that tag match, FTR versus Brodito Bandolito. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to put that and I'm going to tie it in with the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander going against the Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega for different reasons. But it's just, how do we call it, modern wrestling done right. It was just two excellent tag team matches. I guess they were tag team matches. Like, just the way they move, the execution, the stuff they come up with, the near falls, the way they can make you believe either side could win. Really happy that FTR won those championships, because so many new people won titles. I don't want to forget, Chris Statlander kept hers. I'll talk about that in just 1 second. But we had They're brand new tag champions and a brand new world champion. Was there anybody else? Of course, brand new TNT champion. I just talked about it. And that's something that wrestling sort of double second guesses itself about as well. We can't change multiple belts. Of course you can. But I just thought Kenny Omega sold things so wonderfully. I mean, he talks in interviews about how he's not doing well, and I'm sure he's not all the best to him. But he makes me believe that he's really hurting these matches. Oh no, he's broken his leg. He's broken his leg. The Young Bucks are another team that have helped shape modern professional wrestling. You may not like that, but I think that they have. Josh Alexander could be one of the most underrated wrestlers there is. Jurassic Express is just an awesome tag team. They're just so much fun. It just worked. And of course, the end of it, after the bad guys had won, which I predicted, yes, and now Don Callis has $1 million, they start to beat up Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks just come back, and we just pulled the trigger really fast. Let's see what happens on Dynamite. I was surprised that Kenny Omega hugged them. I thought they were going to do the whole, I don't trust you, Young Bucks, because you've been horrible to me for 3 years, but I don't know what they have planned for the future. I don't know what Kenny Omega's sort of clock he has on his career is. I hope it's forever, but he has gone through a lot, so you never know. But maybe they just thought, you know what, we want to get them back together. So they got them back together, and I've got no problem with that, because again, it made me feel good. It was hilarious at the end, because obviously you had them all hugging and holding each other's hands. But you also had a boy from the jungle and a dinosaur. That's only in wrestling would you be able to do this. And the FTR Brodito match, once again, was just, it was a masterclass. Like, I really think it was. I put it as a match of the year candidate straight away. It helped that there were championships on the line because I second-guessed myself constantly. I was like, oh no, FTR are going to win it. Oh no, I think Brodito and Brody King are going to win it. I mean, Brody King taking a flipping spike pile driver. The end part when Bandito was kicking out of everything. It's just really good wrestling booking. Clearly, he's been earmarked for bigger things as well, given the 2025 he's had. He really has terrific matches. But he's kind of, even though he doesn't cut sort of your big traditional American-style promo, just the way that he moves and the way that he is in interviews, he does have something else, Bandito, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but that's great. That's what you want. I guess it's the same as Mystico, right? Obviously, the Mexican crowds are able to get into his talking, but if you don't talk the language, you can't. But he is able to sort of reverberate that in other ways, too. So I just thought it was awesome. It was the right time to change the titles as well. Stokely Hathaway protecting his team, getting in the way of a dive is also good, because now he's like, I don't know, I'm part of this, man. I helped you win the championships. And contrary to what I said earlier, I would allow FTR to have a big old run here. They mentioned they wanted this to be their legacy title reign. I would allow it to be that, just go through everyone and maybe build up to a big match with the Bucks in a year or so. All in London, it will be in 2026. Maybe you can say, sometimes people say this to me, which I find weird, because it's like the opposite, I feel like what it should be. So, of course you're going to say that, Simon, you wrestle. Yeah, I've been in the ring, and so sometimes I know how hard it is to kind of piece all these things together and to go out there and actually pull it off. And it was, I mean, I'm sure there were some loose bits or some moments that did go awry, but I didn't notice them. And even if they were there, they just got right back onto it. And that Shatter Machine 1, 2, 3 finish when Bandito was just like, no, I won't lose. That's professional wrestling, man. It was just a great tag team match. Of course, FTR are involved in this because they just have a certain way and a certain approach. Nailed it. And I really like Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. Like, in terms of if you want to go through what was the best match on the show, I don't think it would be in that conversation, but it was very good. Chris Statlander's an alien again from nowhere. She came out of a UFO. Lots of cool entrances on this show, but she just beat her. Hit her with Satellite's Fever after Mercedes arguably made a mistake. 1, 2, 3. I love the fact that Moné did a 14-3 Amigo suplex, which makes no sense, but obviously she has 14 titles. I was like, I just think she's tremendous. She took a flipping Satellite Fever on the floor. They just fought. And there's a really cool underbelly story here, which is Mercedes can win all the titles in the world, but if she can't win the world championship, she's nothing. And I think that should become the crux of her promo soon, because she lost to Toni Storm, she lost to Chris Statlander here. AEW does present Mercedes as a big star, even if you want to moan about it on social media, which is, you're right, a lot of you take it way too far, but no one's going to stop you, which is a shame. But now Statlander can walk around as the big dog, right? She really can. I beat Toni Storm, I beat Mercedes, the two biggest women's wrestlers of 2025 in AEW. So who is next? That's a good question. I don't know. You may be able to do a Mercedes rematch where she puts all her belts on the line, and then Chris Statlander wins them all and just sends them. Imagine we did that. Sends them back to everyone. Dear, I don't know, Canadian promotion, I've retained your title. But it's just building new people. Like, we're going into 2026. Let's just say no other belts change hands, right? Mark Briscoe feels fresh as a TNT champion. Chris Statlander feels fresh here. FTR do feel fresh. I understand they're probably nearer to the end of the careers as they are the beginning of the careers. But it was just putting new people in place that hopefully then spawn new feuds. I am now desperately thinking who could take on Chris Statlander. Because someone like a Megan Bayne could enter that, or Marina Shafir, like a proper threat. That's a good first person to beat. Like when Steve Austin won his first bout at WrestleMania 14, his first opponent was Dude Love. Don't worry about the character there. It's more about everyone knew Mick Foley could brawl around the place, which is what they did. So anyone that can come in and kind of present a different challenge to Chris Statlander, I just think allows her to level up more. It was the right thing to do. I know some people thought Mercedes was going to win. Way more interesting. Mercedes having all these belts, but not having arguably the biggest one. That's just a simple story. I like it. Otherwise, Pac versus Darby also surprised me because I thought Pac was going to lose. He didn't. But again, I think that ties into the whole Death Rider stuff too. Like, Pac won his match with the help of Wheeler Yuta. Why can't you do the same, Jon Moxley? Darby Allin just scares me. The worst part for me, I know he took some arguably worse bumps. The press slam to the floor. Because you can't control your bump when someone has just hurt you. Do your best, but you can't really. But that kind of shocked me too, which I liked. It was super early on. So that was the right thing to do as well. And the Casino Gauntlet is just, I love that stipulation. That is their Royal Rumble, if we're just going to talk in stupid terms here. I thought it was hilarious that Ricochet was number 3. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin should be livid. So we had to work for 1 and 2. And Matt Goober comes out straight at 3. And I like the fact that Ricochet won. I love the Matt Menard, Daniel Garcia stuff. That's a television feud you can easily do, and it makes sense because Daniel Garcia did screw him over badly. Another good reason to remove Jon Moxley. Then Daniel Garcia can shine more. Maybe he can even be the catalyst for it. But yeah, Ricochet getting the win after being murdered on Dynamite, especially because he used the Gates of Agony. Simple, man. That's all we need to do. He can go to CMML. He can go to New Japan. He's going to be on the Ring of Honor show. I think Ricochet's another one that deserves a shout out for 2025. He's reinvented himself. I think if you go back to whenever he's last in WWE 2024, I suppose, I don't think you'd even recognize them as the same people in terms of how they're approaching wrestling and stuff. So he was my prediction as well. I just think it made all the sense in the world. And who he feuds with, I don't know. I thought Kevin Knight looked great in this as well. Well, everybody did. Like Orange Cassidy, Mike Bailey. They all looked awesome. But I'm not sure anybody else. It depends what we do with this belt going forward, right? Because there are too many championships in AEW. I talked about it when they announced it. But if Ricochet can now go and just do what Ricochet does, people forget how good he is in the ring and how he helped shape modern day wrestling too, then yeah, sure, he can fly the AEW flag. Hey, you can come over to Progress in the UK. I wrestle there. I'll take you on. We can have a battle of the balls. If we do it right, which was meant to be the plan with the international title, there could be a interesting spin to it, but we do have to wait and see. But I've got no problem with Ricochet winning. In fact, I think it was the right thing to do. That women's tag match was a little bit weird. Like, the match itself was good. I can't get my head around the fact that now Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa get a stipulation in their semi-final. Let's say they take on the Sisters of Sin, meaning it's the Babes of Wrath taking on Harley Cameron, taking on Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. And let's say they do a flipping death match, as Mina threatened. That's a death match, and the other one is not a death match. But why would the Timeless Wonders, whatever they're called, want to put themselves through a death match? I don't know. Maybe it makes more sense to do Toni Storm and Mina taking on Megan and Marina to tie it back into the blood and guts thing, and we did have that sort of here as well. I don't know who's going to win this anymore because I thought it was going to be Toni and Mina, but if you want, I thought whoever's going to lose in the final should have won here. So if that is going to happen, I'm not against Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir becoming the tag team champions, you know, because even though it was a last minute thing because Penelope Ford got injured and hope she's doing okay. They work, and they are like big women slapping women meat, which WW, what's wrong with my brain today? It's why you don't stay up till 4 a.m, which AEW doesn't really have. And it just feels fresh and it feels different. And Megan Bayne gets better all the time. I think we're totally ready for Marina Shafir to run wild, especially if it does turn on Jon Moxley. But any of them could win. I think they would all benefit. Probably, I would argue that Julia Hart and Sky Blue, not at the bottom of that list, that sounds way too extreme. But I think there's probably an upside somewhere else. If you're going to do a heel team, I think it should be, again, the two people that are like, oh, we're going to bust you up. We don't even care. Although I don't hate Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale winning it either. And Harley Cameron did get pinned here. Toni Storm with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. And because they're a delight as a team, that's right, I'm using old people language again, that would make you feel good, which ties into other stuff we talked about today. So that was Full Gear. Good show. I mean, really good show. Too long. I don't want to go on about that too much because arguably we've talked about that enough on other shows. And if that's what AEW is going to do, I think sometimes you can bang the drum too much. I know it's going to be too long when I go in, so I don't think it should be an over-criticism, but I still have to mention it. I think that's fair. But I can't believe I said this of all people. I love the pyrotechnics starting the show. I wouldn't have done it on this show as well, only because we did it on the last show. It's the less is more thing. You gave it to me. I had the best time. That made me laugh out loud when I did it with the FTR match. I don't think you need to do it again. I actually think what we should have done, and again, I'm a moron here, but Okada arriving and essentially going, I don't work the pre-show, I only work in the main show, that could have been your pyrotechnic thing this time. So I think this time we should have just started with confusion, like, is Okada going to turn up? Then he does, then he comes out to his entrance music during the switchover. I mean, you could argue we did that here. I just wouldn't have done it with the big pyro thing. I would have had him have a more of a standard entrance. What am I even talking about? It doesn't matter at all, but some people ask me about it. Yes, I would always keep that wrapped up and then make people go, ha ha, whereas now we expect it. Don't know why I did Ricochet's laugh there. But still a really good match, and I love the fact that the Don Callis family lost because Takeshita and Okada are bickering like kids. I now imagine I think Takeshi's probably going to win the C2, and that's how we do Okada versus him. That match is going to be great. You can see they're both super duper invested into this, which was good. But yes, overall, I really did enjoy myself with this. I think, listen, I'm blessed to do what I do because I have to watch it as quickly as I possibly can and make content off the back of it. So it's sort of very intense and it can be quite, not stressful, but a lot for your brain. I think if you were able to sort of watch this casually on a Saturday evening or over here, maybe you wake up on a Sunday and watch it, it would be even better still. Because every single match sort of in the context it was presented in, fantastic. And it's just the fact that AEW's like, next one. You haven't even got time to go to the bathroom, which, listen, there's a definite pro side and a definite upside to that. But I thought AEW hit a home run with this show. I think it's excellent. There's so much. If they follow up on Dynamite with all these championship changes and surprises, I think it's going to help. And that's the whole point. Now listen, I need to know what you think about this. I'm genuinely intrigued, and I can tell when the WWE tribalists arrive. Please comment, because it's all engagement, but I still want to hear what people actually think about this. So yeah, drop me a comment, like the video, share the video, please do subscribe, and click the video on the screen to get my thoughts on SmackDown, should you wish to do that. Otherwise, yes, grillermind.com/Simon, you go to Simon, up to 40% off, if not more at the moment, because it's their Black Friday, November sales time. So make sure you benefit from that. Patreon.com/Simon316. John Cena versus Bryan Danielson from SummerSlam went up today. Bunch of John Cena matches recently. So yes, if you can support me there, it helps the channel. Of course it does. Simon316 to call me an idiot. Otherwise, Patreon and Patreon idiot, TikTok Cameo, and Pro Wrestling Tees. Search for my name. Doing a bunch of happy holiday cameos at the moment, which is always fun. That's it. Now I need to go and sleep. Have a terrific Sunday. I'll see you next week.